not much to making a poke bar. Poke bar. Hey guys, it's Rachel P, and today I'm going to show you how to make a build-your-own poke bar. Poke bowls come from Hawaii, and they're kind of just like a burrito bowl, but for sushi. And there's a lot of restaurants now that have been popping up where you can go and have someone make this for you, but they're pretty easy to make at home, and it's a really fun way to invite a bunch of people over, or your parents, and let everybody build the meal they want without having to cook very much. First, we're gonna cook the only two things that we actually need to cook. So first, I'm gonna be cooking some fried shallots, and those are gonna be for people to sprinkle on top of their bowls. And then we're gonna use the leftover oil from the pan to cook some honey sriracha shrimp. And that way there's a protein available for people who maybe don't like to eat raw fish, but do enjoy sushi like my mom. So the first thing we're gonna use is some neutral oil. I'm using peanut oil, but canola, vegetable, grapeseed, any of those are gonna work fine. And you're just gonna pour enough so that you get a nice 1/2 inch in your skillet. You know, if you're using a smaller pan, then you're gonna use less oil, but I wanna make sure that I have plenty so that when I'm cooking my shrimp later, I have enough. And I'm gonna turn this on, like medium heat. We don't want the oil to get too hot because you want it to kind of fry the entire shallot before the outside burns. So if you put it too high, they're just gonna burn and you'll have like burnt shallot on the outside and raw onion on the inside. So while our oil is heating up, I'm actually gonna put stuff on our shrimp so that it can kind of hang out in the seasoning and take on some of those flavors. And you can measure this out, but I have a pound of raw shrimp and I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of soy sauce and about a teaspoon-ish of honey and about a teaspoon of sriracha. And if you want these to be spicier, you can add a little bit more. It's just gonna kind of come down to your personal preference. And you could add things like grated garlic or some ginger to it. I'm just kind of keeping it as simple as possible. And you don't need to add any salt because the soy sauce is gonna add that salinity for you. If you're really sensitive to spice, you can always just eliminate the sriracha altogether. Soy and honey are gonna be really good, and you're just gonna toss it to coat. And now I'm gonna check back in with our oil. Once you think your oil might be ready, the way that you can tell is by taking a piece of your shallot, really any onion, as long as you cut it up nice and small, and you're gonna go like this, and it should start sizzling immediately. You can just drop it in if you're scared of getting your fingers close. Don't recommend sticking them close to hot oil, even though I'm doing it. But this one's not doing anything, which means that the oil's not actually hot enough yet. So I'm just gonna let it heat up for a little bit longer and I'll wait, because you don't want the shallots to be hanging out in the hot, but not hot enough oil, because then they're just gonna kind of get overly oily and they won't really crisp very well. So I'm gonna check our oil again. I think this time it's gonna be ready. And it is sizzling immediately. So I'm gonna take my shallots and I'm gonna carefully pour them in there. And then you wanna use a slotted spatula that's metal. That would be ideal. And if it's bubbling up that much, you can turn your heat down a little bit. And you're just gonna let this hang out. You can kind of stir it around occasionally just to make sure that everything is heating up evenly. And we're gonna let this do its thing until everything looks golden and crispy. One of the things you wanna kind of have ready so that you're good to go when they're done is some paper towels on the side, because that's gonna help soak up some of the excess oil when you pull them out and ensure that they stay crispy, since you're probably gonna do this a little bit before when you actually put out all of your stuff. These are great on top of salads. The oil left over is gonna taste like shallots, so it would be great in a vinaigrette or a marinade for some meat that you're gonna grill up. Really just an all-around important skill to have is the shallow fry. If you need a refresher on how to cut shallots, you can check my other video on how to cut an onion. It's the same thing. Shallots are just a small, more French onion. This is definitely not something where you should walk away during this process, because they will go from looking pretty raw to being burnt very quickly. And you also have hot oil on the stove, which is not inherently dangerous, but it is dangerous if you abandon it and it catches on fire. But like, please don't light your kitchen on fire because of me. So you can see these are getting nice and golden. I'm gonna give them just a little bit longer to make sure that all of the pieces are nice and fried. And this might seem like it's kind of annoying to do, and it is standing over a hot stove, but this really makes it. This is like the great thing that everyone's gonna want on top of their bowl. You can also do this exact same thing, but with slices of garlic. Make little garlic chips, wonton wrappers, cut them into pieces and fry those. Some poke places will slice pieces of lotus root and fry those. So if you're at an Asian grocery store and you can find those, you can always fry those up too. So now I'm taking these out. This is too much oil to cook the shrimp in, but I do want to leave some of it behind. I left some oil in the pan, which is already pretty hot. So I've got the heat on medium high. You want to try to cook shrimp as quickly as possible so that you can get some color on them before they finish cooking, because they're going to finish cooking really quickly. I'm going to add the shrimp. I have some tongs. Just kind of get these in one even layer and then let them sit for a second because we want to make sure that they get some color. Once you see on your shrimp that they're starting to get opaque and a little pink up to the sides of the top, then you want to start flipping them. And really with shrimp, the goal is to get them just barely cooked because all protein continues cooking for a little bit once you take it off the heat. And because shrimp are so prone to overcooking, we want to make sure that they don't actually overcook. I think tongs are really good for this, just because you can get in there and kind of flip things really quickly. If you're good with chopsticks, I also like using those, but you're going to want to use something like stainless steel, not plastic ones in your hot pan. Bamboo also works. This is all to say I've melted chopsticks in a pan before. I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off. They're just going to need like another few seconds. I'm gonna start moving the shrimp over. Now that we've got the shrimp out of the way, we're gonna kind of get everything set up. So you wanna start with your base. I have some shredded cabbage. I used Savoy cabbage, which is a really like wrinkly looking one, but you could use any type. And I have some sushi rice that I cooked. I rinsed it a little bit, cooked it according to the package instructions, and then added some rice vinegar, a little bit of sugar, and a little bit of salt. So I guess technically there was one more cooking thing, but you can do it ahead of time. Then we're gonna kind of get into our veggies that we would put out. A lot of these are gonna be things that you can just do some very minimal prep on or just come straight out of their container. So you could prep them the night before. They're also great, easy things to outsource. So if you're putting out this whole spread, you can tell somebody, hey, can you bring a bag of microwavable edamame? And then they will show up like, sure, Rachel, I'm so happy you invited me. And they'll give it to you and you can put it out. We've got some sliced cucumbers. I would use Persian cucumber, or in this case, some what they were calling baby cocktail cucumbers, sliced into coins. We have some julienne carrots. And then I also have some diced avocado, some seaweed salad, which you can pretty much get honestly at the grocery store these days, or you can outsource that too. We've got that shrimp from earlier, and we have some salmon that I diced up, and you can use any sashimi grade fish. So now we're gonna kind of move on to our toppings. I've got some sliced scallions with green onions. We've got some toasted nori, which is just gonna be that seaweed that they use on the outside of sushi rolls. And you can buy it in little packages of roasted sheets, or you can buy bags of seaweed laver, and that's just gonna be shredded, crispity little seaweed bits. I have some roasted peanuts, those shallots that we fried, some fish roe that you can get at most Asian supermarkets, pickled ginger, some toasted sesame seeds. I have something called furikake, and I do not know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. A seaweed sesame seed sprinkle. Some of us really love seaweed and just kind of keep it around. So if you have them, fine. If not, just pick one and put it out. And so we've got all of these things, and the one thing that we have left is some sauce. I recommend putting out 2 to 3 sauces because everyone likes options. One really common one you can put out is ponzu. It's basically a soy citrus vinaigrette. You could do something like a sriracha mayo, but what I'm gonna do is some wasabi mayo. I have about a half cup of mayo and I have a tube of wasabi. I'm gonna put about a tablespoon of wasabi in and taste it after I mix it up. And I'm also gonna add about a half teaspoon of honey and just a splash of rice wine vinegar. If you don't have any lying around, you could also use something like white wine vinegar, but I like rice wine vinegar for this. So now I'm just gonna mix this up. I'm just gonna add a little bit of honey and a little bit more vinegar just to loosen it up. It's never gonna be as green as the wasabi sauce that you can buy at the store. And that's because they're putting food coloring in that. Mayonnaise is spreadable and we want this to be drizzleable. You can just add a little bit of water, like a tablespoon at a time, just until you get the consistency that you're looking for. If you have any squeeze bottles, they're great for your sauces because then you can just kind of squiggle them on there. So now I am gonna assemble myself a bowl. So I've got some sushi rice, some cabbage, carrots, edamame, cucumbers, a little bit of avocado, some seaweed salad. Let's see, now we're into protein territory. I think I want a couple shrimp, some salmon, some scallions. Gotta get some of these guys. Some roe, some furikake, if that's what you call it, and wasabi mayo. So that's really all there is to it. There's not much cooking in poke bar assembly, but once you get those 1 or 2 things out of the way, it's really just about putting things in bowls and accepting compliments from all of your guests. For more tips and recipes, check out my website, JoyFullFoods.com. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and click right now to subscribe for more videos. Bye. This is good.